Josh Mansell here from MMA Today News, bringing you guys another episode of Getting to Know MMA Today. Today I'm bringing you one of the big dogs over at MMA Today, senior editor, head story breaker. It's my man Nolan King. How are you, man?
Doing pretty well, Josh. How you doing?
I'm excellent, and it's great to talk to you, man. You're a very busy person.
Yeah. I certainly have a lot on my plate, but I like pretty much everything that I'm doing, so makes it that much easier.
Of course, yeah, and obviously you've been someone that the people have wanted on for a long time. You can find Nolan also at MMA_Kings. That's right, yeah.
Yeah, that's correct, man. I'm gonna be my title on Twitter right now is the MMA Kings. I think starting in 2018, my title will be Nolan King with the same underscore, the same, um, at MMA_Kings that you can find me under now. But next year it will be under my actual real name, Nolan King. Little breaking news, I guess here.
That's an exclusive right there. We
Yep.
we bring it all at Getting to Know MMA Today. So anyway, give me a brief description about yourself.
Yeah, man. So I'm 22 years old. I'm a college student up at the University of New Hampshire, in Durham, New Hampshire, United States. So I'm currently studying to be a physician's assistant. It's a 2-year grad program. Is in my future. I also work as a EMT, trying to get some experience in with patients right now. And then, yeah, this is kind of it was a hobby that I just kind of was messing around one day on Twitter, looking for something to do before I became so busy, like I am now. I just made an account, just thought it would be fun to kind of see what I could do with it. And, things just took off from there, man. And I'm surprised, I'm honestly shocked that people have liked what I've done so much. And I, definitely feel like there's a lot of support, and I appreciate everybody that comments and messages me. It means a lot to me, and it's something I really enjoy doing.
Yeah, you mentioned New Hampshire. That's where you go to college. I actually been there to go skiing. Actually,
Yeah, that's
um,
pretty funny, man. It's not like New Hampshire's the main attraction here in the United States, so that's pretty coincidental that you've been here.
what are the two skiing resorts you've got?
There's a
Oh,
few. Honestly, I'm from Massachusetts. That's where I live when I'm not at school, so
right,
I'm not
okay.
as familiar with all of New Hampshire as maybe some other people. But I know there's a lot of skiing that goes on, obviously, up in New Hampshire. I'm not a huge skier, but maybe someday I'll start getting into that. But yeah,
Yeah,
right now I don't know a whole lot about the skiing up there.
of course, yeah, yeah. I only went for it was a week holiday back a few years ago when I was a bit younger, but I kind of remember the place. Can't remember the results, to be honest with you. Um, anyway, how did you get into mixed martial arts in general?
Yeah, it's kind of a two-bit story. I think my being a casual fan started long before me being, a hardcore fan started. So I remember, obviously I was growing up WWE fan when I was, in elementary school, stuff like that. And I remember the UFC would always air their commercials on WWE programming. This was at the time that they were using the slogan "as real as it gets," kind of trying to take a dig at WWE. So I
Yeah,
used to kind of cross over once in a while. Of course, my dad liked obviously to watch the UFC a little bit more than the pro wrestling, and he told me at the time, if the UFC ever comes to Boston, we'll make sure that they'll have to go. So fast forward to 2010, I'm in I think I'm must be in early high school at this time, and I started seeing that the UFC was going to come to Boston. UFC 118, it was BJ Penn versus Frankie Edgar, the rematch. So we bought tickets, and around that time, I think I'm trying to remember what card I started off on. It was right after Chuck Liddell lost to Rich Franklin. I think it was like a tough finale or something.
yeah.
Kimbo Slice fought who did he fight? Maybe Mitrione or something. And I started tuning in, and I just kind of was like, all right, I'm going to the event. I'm going to have to follow this from now on. So I got really into it. I picked up the UFC Undisputed video game, and from there I learned all the fighters. That brought me right into my first live event, man, and I haven't looked back since.
That game, I remember that game. I think we all
Oh,
started there at some point.
oh yeah, for sure. Brock Lesnar on the cover, man, that was the best.
Yes, yes. And was there a specific fight, a specific fighter that you watched and you were like, "Wow, I want in. I want to watch this."
Yeah, I think again, like this was a really good time for me to start up because I went from my first live event and then the next event was UFC 119, which wasn't a great card, but actually bring it back a little bit. Leading up to the UFC 118, I had the Brock Lesnar Shane Carwin fight, and then I had 117 was the Chael Sonnen versus Anderson Silva fight. So those two cards really got me into it. And from there it was there was no looking back. And if we're talking about fighters that really got me interested, Kenny Florian honestly was one of the guys that got me really interested in it. He's from not too far away from me, so kind of having to be able to to get behind a local guy and root for him, see that he's done so much for the sport and that he was at the time making another title push, definitely got me more invested in MMA to have some hometown guys in there.
And what was the background about you getting actually getting into writing?
Yeah, so I mean, I was always a good writer in high school. That was something that I excelled at. I just didn't really see an avenue for me to pursue any type of career in it. So, when I got to college, I never really considered that this would be something that I would be able to do. So I ended up, I went into college undeclared, ended up going to do the pre-med route, like I said, kind of put writing to the side, but all the classes that I was in where I had to write things, I still did really well, and it's something that I enjoyed doing. So, I had the Twitter account, ran it for a little while, and then got an offer from MMAToday to come over and join them when they were doing their startup. And at the time, it was perfect for me, man. And that's where I am now. I just started getting into writing, really back in May was when I really started, doing this. I had never done anything like this before.
Yeah.
And I've enjoyed it thoroughly. I love doing the interviews and stuff. And, I'm happy that I've been able to, have an outlet for the passion that I thought that I wouldn't be able to, display anywhere else.
Of course. And your work it can be located in different areas, but what are your favorite things to be doing over at MMAToday specifically?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, a big one for me is I like to break the news. I like to, to shoot out some scoops, write some articles about those type of things. But something that I just kind of, I did to fill up the free time when the well was running a little bit dry in terms of news, was I loved doing the Contender Series interviews that I did over the summer. I thought those were awesome. I thoroughly enjoyed that. Hearing guys, their journeys, so many different backgrounds, so many different stories.
Of course. Yeah.
And to see them all on TV when it all means so much to them. They have this one opportunity that they built their whole career around, and now they're fighting each other with it all on the line was really cool. And it was pretty fun to see who walked away with it. And, and now they're all, a solid amount of the guys that I talked to are in the UFC doing their thing. So very cool to see that journey for those guys. So that's probably my favorite thing that I've done with MMAToday.
And what's the feeling like when you announce a fight before anyone else? Because sometimes you know the fights before the fighters know the fights. What's that about? That's crazy.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I wouldn't say maybe to that extent. I know some of them joked around. I know Chase Sherman joked around about that, but
yeah, that's where I took it from.
Yeah. So yeah, man, it's pretty cool. It's kind of nerve wracking because there's a lot of times where I'll hear things and I'll be looking to try to confirm them, further, make sure that I have enough information where I if I put something out, I want to make sure that it never. There's not even an inkling of a doubt that it's going to happen. So it's always kind of nerve wracking to get the last pieces of the puzzle to be able to put something out. But once I feel confident enough, to put it out there, I love doing it, man. I see how much excitement that other people get out of it too. And I think that's maybe one of my favorite parts. I know, when I used to, before I started breaking news, when I would, see the UFC's coming to my area, I would check Twitter all the time looking for new fights. And, it was like an adrenaline rush when one of those fights would pop up, and I get to think about it and look it over and who was going to win. So I kind of like being on the other end of that and giving people that type of joy too. And I always try to be pretty upfront about things and answer people's questions. If I hear something that's kind of on the edge where there's discussions or something, usually I'll tweet that out there too. But I like to keep things honest because I see so many people try to jump the gun on things, and it never works out well. So,
yeah, of course.
That's a long-winded answer to your question, but that's kind of what I'm feeling when I put that stuff out there.
Do you have any favorite fighters or favorite fights that you can think of on the spot?
Ooh, honestly, man, I used to be really particular about the fighters. I had my favorites back in the day.
Yeah,
Chuck Liddell was one of my favorites. Stuff. Some of the more legends like that. But honestly, now there's just so many good guys in the sport, and being able to talk to them and to see their journey, it's really honestly hard for me to have favorite fighters. I find myself, going into most fights where I don't want either guy to lose because there's just so many good, hardworking dudes out there that put it all on the line.
of
In
course.
terms of fights, yeah, man, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. Honestly, one of my favorite fights ever was kind of the most underappreciated fight from last year, which was Polo Reyes versus Dong Young Kim, Maestro. That's
Okay.
one of my favorite fights. That was a good one. Um, yeah, I mean, there's so many good ones that I'd be lying to you if I could sit here for 20 minutes and rattle off my favorite fights, but
Of course, yeah.
like I said, I have a big list.
And final question now: do you have any experience in martial arts at all?
Me, no, man. I should get into it. I senior year of high school, I was coming off I was going to have my final season of basketball. Got a really bad concussion, and it kind of it put me out of action for the season. And right around that time, I had been kind of looking into starting to train and stuff. And
Yeah.
since then, I've been at college doing everything, and I just really haven't had time. But now I'm going to be graduating in June. Probably going to be taking a little bit of time off before grad school. So, with free time opening up, definitely something that I want to get into. There's a number of local gyms around here that are pretty good. Have some UFC guys. Some, CES is the big promotion in my area. So, kind of right in the hotbed of New England MMA. So that's definitely on my agenda to start doing sometime in the near future.
Nolan, man, I really appreciate it. That's all I've got for you.
Yeah, I
Uh,
appreciate your time, Josh. It's kind of cool to be interviewed for once and not be the one doing the interview. So I appreciate your time. I know you're working really hard and you're killing it, man. People say that I'm young and I'm 22 and whatever, but for you doing what you're doing, got to give you a tip of the cap too, my man.
Nolan, I really appreciate that. Thank you for joining me today. Like I said, you can follow Nolan at MMA_Kings, bringing those fights, he's telling you everything about MMA, all right? He's getting it out there before anyone else is. Nolan, thank you very much.
Thanks, Josh.
Speak to you soon, man.
Yeah, appreciate it, man.
Cheers.
Take it easy.